press the record. Okay. Yeah. Listening.
It says, so for the disposable income, I want to think that the money that is not actually very, very important, or let's say some money set aside for uh, pleasure or something.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So when we talk about disposable income, we are talking about, your revenue minus your cost, or your, revenue minus your expenditure. What is left is your disposable income. All right. So at the end of the month, let's say you're giving 100 Ghana cedis, your expenditure at the end of the month all totals, let's say, 80 Ghana cedis. Now, you would say that the remaining 20 Ghana perhaps is your savings, all right? But out of this savings also is what people actually take up. But usually people actually add their tourism, or their travel expenditure into the, as part of their expenditures, all right? So you could say that disposable income, as you said, is actually the kind of money that people do not have pressures on in terms of, the most, what we call essentials of life, all right? So you're looking at essentials of life, just like tuition fees for your, children or yourself. You're looking at daily, expenses, food, shelter, all those, kind of expenditures. So when you take them out, what is remaining is what you are talking about as disposable income that people use to be on these, Sometimes you probably would find that between two people, what someone may consider as essentials of life could be part of, could travel or tourism could be part of it, because of the person's own orientation, Others may not actually consider it as essentials of life. So it depends. But generally speaking, when we talk about disposable income, we're talking about monies that do not have too much pressures on them, that people can expend, without necessarily thinking about its impact or its effect on their essentials of life or daily living. So we're saying that when there is an increase in disposable income, we expect that people would travel more, people would participate in hospitality more. And how does this disposable income come from? Of course, when they get extra bonuses at work, or when they get increments at work, or when people have a windfall, maybe they've won some lottery, etc., they're likely to spend more. So how do you factor that in as a hospitality or tourism manager? It's about you listening to news and the daily, happenings. When there is a report of consumer spending increases, all right? When there's a report about the economic outlook of, even the country or the source countries, and when there's a report about high unemployment in England or in America or in any of these source countries, then you know that certainly that is likely to have an effect on your tourism and hospitality environment. When there's a report on unemployment and it doesn't look good, the report is very gloomy as we're having now, then certainly you should factor that into your planning as a hospitality and tourism manager. That is going to have an impact, on your, activities. So you have to be very much open to news items. You have to be observing, the economic indicators. You cannot actually say that's for you, or you're actually not interested in politics or interested in economic figures, because it has very much to do with your work. And so if you don't pay attention to that, for example, as we speak, who is aware of the most topical hospitality and tourism news as we speak right now? Who is aware? And who can tell us? Let me test your what we used to call, what is it, general knowledge or current affairs. Yeah? Who can tell us the current topical news in the space that all of us are working in? Joanne?
Sir, hospitality and tourism industries are down because of the ban that has been placed on traveling.
That's correct. But there's a hot news right from the banner just today. What's the news?
Is that one with the senior minister?
Yeah, what is it?
I think they have launched some development fund or something.
Yeah, so tell us the story, Jemima.
Oh, I just read the headline.
Yeah, so read it fully to us.
Let me check if I can find it.
Okay, so you just skimmed it.
Yeah.
But you didn't link it to your space.
Well, I knew maybe I'll read it later, but I'm not at that particular moment.
Okay, but yeah, that's the story. So thanks for that. That's a very good attempt. So that's the story I'm talking about. They just launched Ghana Tourism Development Project Fund, and it's about how much is it? It's about a billion plus, right? Yeah, I'm also trying to look for the story itself. All right. So the point I'm making is that if you want to be very effective, manager within the space, you have to be aware of the policies that is going on. You have to be aware of the economic news that's going on. You have to be aware of the developments that's going on, so that you'll be able to factor that into your planning and into your forecasting. All right. So suddenly, if there is that a scheme, proposed by government or initiated by government, then there's a lot of spend within the space. All right. And there's a lot of development that's going to go on. Suddenly, there's going to be a lot of competition as well, because they launched it within the SME, framework. So whoever is going to have access to that scheme, then is going to actually enhance their work, or they're going to, kind of improve on their work. And that will bring a lot of competition. So most of you all of you should actually check that policy and ask yourself whether you qualify, because it's a fund that they have actually, put together. So you have to look at whether you qualify and how you can take advantage of that. All right.
I think I've seen it.
You've seen the story, right? What does it say?
Yes. It was launched by the senior minister at the Ministry of Information Auditorium in Accra.
Yeah. So what does it say?
It says it's a grant scheme, among others, aims at supporting registered individual enterprises and other enterprises operating in the tourism and hospitality sector.
Excellent. All right. So all of you have your small businesses. So you've got to actually go and check whether you qualify, for this fund, and how that can actually help, your own what do you call, effort. So you've got to actually have a look at that. All right. Now, enhanced aircraft technology also facilitates, travel. And I think the last time we were discussing about how long it takes to actually travel from one point to the other. I just came from Takrady, and when I called Jemima, I was in Harborview, very fantastic place. Jemima, do you go there?
Hello?
Yeah, I was asking whether you go to Harborview sometime.
It's been a long while, like a year.
Why? Why has it been a year before?
Oh, because I have access directly to the port, probably.
Yeah, so you take it for granted, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that the way the place is managed, it's not
the best.
Yeah, it's not the best.
Okay. Well, is that because of the sisters and things?
Oh, not even that, but I think they are not. The owners are not prepared to maybe allow those with the capital to And I'm sure many people will be interested in having that property, but the owners want to still hold on to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was, it was a nostalgic moment for me because those days we used to go there a lot. Anyway, so yeah. So traveling from here to Takoradi, for example, took me approximately 4.5 hours. All right. Or sometimes it can take you 5 hours depending on the traffic situation. But so if you have to journey from here to Takoradi and from Takoradi to Kumasi, that is connecting the various, centers, the tourism spaces and things, then it means that it's going to take you a long while. So when you have enhanced aircraft technology or you have enhanced air transport like we have now, then certainly that would actually facilitate a lot more, tourism, because people will then cut short, their travel times. The same thing applies to rail sector. If we have a very vibrant, railroads, then of course that actually facilitate travel. Education and awareness, lead to desire to see different locations. Of course, when people are very much educated, they are aspirational. They want to see a lot more places. And then, of course, even within that is the inbound countries itself, it also facilitates good relationship because when people are educated, they know how they're supposed to relate to, tourists, etc. And of course, it affects the service provision as well, the kind of service that people offer to tourists, etc. Then, of course, increase in leisure time of the consumer. One of the things that increasingly is affecting domestic tourism is about, the issue of leave, the leave system, the leave structure, annual leave, I mean. In Ghana, majority of people don't take their annual leaves. Is that the case in most of your workplaces?
So yeah, in the hospitality sector, I think that you see our industry is very small, and human resource, especially those with technical know-how, are very less. A lot of people learn on the job, and you will realize that there is the turnover is very bad with regards to most of these hospitality, maybe most of the hotels or the various groupings. And so it's very difficult for people to go on leave because, for instance, if you take an example of a housekeeping, you take somebody, you allow somebody to go on leave. Probably the person might have been doing the right thing for you. Housekeeping is a very essential part of hospitality or hotel business. Yeah. And so if you will have to allow that person to go, maybe that person is your, is your first. Exactly. So it's very difficult. It's not a sector that a lot of people, for instance, I've been working currently where I am in the over half a decade and have not gone on my 1 month leave, because anytime I make up my mind to go, something comes up or there's a challenge.
You're actually part of the barriers to tourism and hospitality. Yeah. Kwame, you have to go on leave. You see? So, because the point is that if people don't go on leave, they don't have disposable time. You see, it's not only about disposable income, but it's also about disposable time, isn't it? If you do not have the time to go off work, then you're likely not to have the time to be on tour or to take leisure. So I keep saying, and I remember in one of the discussions that we had at the ministry, my suggestion to the minister was that we probably have to work with the Minister for Employment and with the trade union, TUC, Trade Union Congress, to devise or to come out with a policy where if you don't take your leave, in a year, within the year, then you have to forfeit your leave. Now, the reason why...
let me cut in quickly. Let's all understand that this sector in Ghana doesn't pay. We need to understand that.
Not only the hospitality sector I'm talking about the entirety of the country. So let's take, Mercedes, for example. So let's say Mercedes, working with, is it Pricewaterhouse or, one of these organizations? Mercedes, is it PwC?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So she works for 5 years with no leave. Meanwhile, she's accumulated a lot of cash. All right. Despite the disposable income that she has, because she has not got disposable time, she's not going to be on tour. So the argument is that domestic tourism is suffering because of our annual leave policy. Mercedes, you want to say something?
Yes. So what Kwame said, basically, sometimes it happens to our side as well. Because, for example, I told my boss that I'll take my leave in June, that second week, when I realized I would start lectures second week. And it was approved and everything. But from second week of June till now, I've only gone on 3 or so 2 days out of the rest. I'm still working. You see, so like Kwame is saying, sometimes it's not like you don't want to go, but should I say sometimes the work doesn't, whatever, but definitely I'll take it. So I've decided to just finish what I'm doing currently. I have a report that is due. I hope by next week is done. Then July, whether they like it or not, because I'm tired. It gets to a point, even when you're getting the money, you need the rest. Yeah. You end up using the money to go to the hospital for checkup and no.
That's the point I was going to make.
Yeah.
So you see, the issue here is that, and let's look at from a very big picture here. Corporations or businesses are employing less than they should to take care of work. All right. And so they are having very few people taking care of very huge job. And because of that, they are afraid that when that person goes on leave, the job will not get done. Forgetting that they need actually 2 or 3 people to take care of that job, so that one goes on leave, the other is taken care of. But you have one person who is responsible for everything, and if they have to go on leave, there's a problem. Again, we can expand the work environment, all right, by using what we call temporary staff. So if we want to actually increase employment rate, we probably have to make sure that people go on leave and people who are on short-term, short-term, employment.
Casual workers.
Casual, exactly, can come and fill in. Now, you do that in order that you can expand the work environment, i.e. you can expand employment, but also keep the health of staff in a very good condition, because as Mercedes is saying, you work at some point, you realize that you have been overworked. For 5 years, you haven't had leave. You're suddenly going to break down. And that can actually contribute to the health bill of the country. So they are all intertwined. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very well. Whilst we are talking about the fact that we will have to bring in casual workers and auxiliary staff, we should also be considering the fact that this is a sector that deals with standards. Okay, and so if you are bringing in a casual worker, that casual worker requires training, and that training requires money. Yeah, and so these people will have to be trained, and it comes with extra costs.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let me give you a model. When you go to England, all right, there are, what we call the employment agencies. They specialize in areas, all right? In fact, there are people who deliberately take the decision not to work full-time. They work with employment agencies, part-time workers, PTs, or what we call part-times, all right? So you have employment agency dedicated to hospitality area. And these agencies take people who have experience in hospitality and they train them as well, all right? Now, they are seconded to institutions who need part-time staff. And some of them can actually be sent to places as far as 1 year. Are you with me? So yes, I agree with the issue of standards, expertise, etc. Now, when the model is started, all these things are taken into consideration. Now, the discussion here is about how do we increase hospitality and tourism spend, remember. So Kwame, the issue that you're actually talking about is the same issue that is actually hindering our progress within the field. Do you get the point I'm making? Because if we do not expand the work environment by making sure that people can take their leaves when they're due and replacing them with temporary workers, we are not going to get the domestic tourism going. So my proposal to the minister was that we need to actually enforce the law that people should take their annual leave. If you don't take your annual leave, you forfeit it. In that case, it means that you take the leave and you make use of it, meaning that you may have to travel anyway, because you cannot spend barely all your holidays sitting at home. Are you with me? Yeah, Mercedes.
Some of them. Oh.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Mercedes.
Yes, so like you are saying, in PwC, for example, our year or our financial year ends in June. That's this month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they give us a grace period of 3 months, mm-hmm. which ends in September. Yeah. So by 30th September, if you've not gone on leave, then like it's done. You can't go again.
Yeah, you forfeit.
So I think some companies have started doing that. So like I said, if they do that, I think it's going to help. And with the casual workers, from what Kwame is saying, definitely it will come at an additional cost. But let me use PwC again as an example. So let's say we are 5 or 6 in a department. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that under normal circumstances, we were supposed to send a schedule before this COVID thing started, so that at least everybody can have a time to go on leave, so that even though, let's say 3 people have gone, there'll be 3 or 4 people behind to do the work. Then it's more of a rotational, basis, so that, like you're saying, everybody can go on leave, because everybody does need leave to rest. Yeah. So it's very necessary. Mm.
Yeah. Joanne, you wanted to say something?
My contribution is that managers should try and give on-the-job training to their employees, because it's like, not that they don't want them to go on leave, but maybe one particular person does the job well. Like what Kwame was saying, if the accommodation girl should leave, there will be problem. But you should know that that person can also have other opportunities to leave your job. So what if she leaves? Does it mean that you are not going to get a good job done for customers? So you should plan the job. No, it shouldn't be like some few people are having pressure. If you realize that it is a bad one, try training for them.
I think that we will all gladly accept that. But if you follow current trends, okay, you'll realize that a lot of employers do not want to train people again. Say, you bear with me. I mean, you are out there and you hear some of these things. A lot of organizations do not want.
The training, it doesn't necessarily mean that sending the person to school or anything.
Absolutely.
You have supervisors. Yes, you have supervisors who will once a while organize something short for them. These things, they are on the net. Anybody at all can do it. So, on the
Doc,
Yeah.
yes, I understand Kwame in a way that, okay, with the big hotels, it's possible for them to give their employees um, a vacation of such, but with a small hotels, like a one-star hotel or a guest house, cannot do that because they have one person doing one work or two
What if that
people
person
doing one
falls sick?
work. Is that?
That person falls sick. What are you going to do? You know,
Yeah.
it can happen. So you should always have a stronger backup too. So that point is debatable.
So I also wanted to add something little to the disposable time.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had the opportunity to work in an HR department for some time, and I realized that the thing of forfeiting your leave is becoming a thing in most organizations and institutions. A few people I know, their workplaces, if you don't take the leave in the year, it doesn't roll up to the following year. Yes, but then the issue is not with the having enough leisure time. Sometimes these people, they have it, but the culture to want to move out to go and relax, they don't have it.
Yeah.
And then even if you may want to, for instance, let's say my husband is on leave in June, I'm working at the time, and if we have kids, like looking at the family as a whole, how are you able to like factor all these things inside so that if it's going to be a family trip or it's just going to be you taking the time to like embark on these domestic tourism activities?
You're right. That's the right question. Mercedes, you want to say something before I come in to add to Na's point?
Okay, so actually I wanted to say something about what Na just said.
Yeah.
That if your husband has taken leave in June and then you are working or whatever, I mean, it depends on the two of you. You can decide to come on leave at the same time, unless it's not possible or it's not feasible. And you can also look for a time that the kids are on vacation. So you realize that there are some people, they plan for, is it August? I think July, August. Around that time, I think most schools are on vacation. So you can plan as well. And then your husband, and I mean, you can go as a big family. But sometimes too, like she's saying, it's not that you don't want to go, but sometimes the funds may also not be readily available. I mean, it's dependent on so many factors.
Exactly. So the point here is that, and that's the point that Nai raised and then Mercedes, you've contributed. Majority of people do not have that awareness, all right? Do not have that awareness of how to use the leisure time or the disposable time, because it's not our culture. So we haven't actually inculcated that in our way of life. That, oh, actually, I can actually do 1 day or 2 days at a place that it wouldn't even cost you. Some people, the mere thinking of traveling to Kumasi, they think you should have almost like 1,000 Ghana cedis, all right? And so they may not even factor that into their planning. And that's where the tourism ministry actually comes in for a very huge domestic tourism awareness creation, all right? And its impact on the quality of life of the people. So here, I think that the National Tourism Authority, which is the Ghana Tourism Authority, and then the ministry, could actually embark on awareness creation about how tourism can actually contribute to your quality way of life. In fact, in most cases, it could even solidify people's relationship, because if you look at a lot of, our systems at the moment, there's so much pressure, work pressure, home pressure, etc. All right. One of the best ways of relieving and then what pressure? You give me a pressure. So one of the ways of making sure that some of these pressures could be relieved or you could actually have that respite is tourism. All right. And that's why when you look at Europe and America, people appreciate tourism a lot because you've got to while away time. And sometimes you realize that the love and the bond is much more rekindled by that journey outside,
Very true.
Yeah. So, Patricia, you say you can't hear. Can you hear us now? Patricia? Hello? Okay.
Yes, doctor, I can.
You can hear us now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you realize that because of lack of variation, all right, in our way of life, we get pent up, all right? Because can you imagine staying in your home, the same block, knowing that place for 1 good year, 2 good years, you don't see anywhere else. Can you imagine the impact? You become so pent up, so bored, so everything, all right? Now, when you go to some of these developed countries, there are what we call caravan homes. Look, you have a very huge caravan home, like the size of Adenta, called, Dolphin Havens. Very huge caravan home. And all that is there is a temporal homes, caravan. People pull their caravans and go inside there, or they go there, there are already caravans there. You go and hire or rent for 1 week or for 3 days. You realize that the entire mood of you and your partner changes. The mood changes completely. By the time you come, you have a lot of talking points to chew about. All right. So you're talking about, the theater you had, this you had, some family you saw that looked a little bit funny, that kind of thing. In our current homes, because of lack of outdoor, all that people do is gossip at home. I mean, they only talk about people at church and at work and at the mosque, etc. Right? So we do not have enough to say because we don't go out. And that's what is affecting quite a lot of, what you call setups, traditional setups. So if the tourism ministry starts doing this awareness, how tourism and hospitality actually contribute to our well-being, people start getting orientated towards that. And people start realizing that actually it doesn't cost much to do that. I mean, currently as we speak, you tell people, oh, why don't you just take about a day or two to be in a hotel? They will say, are you crazy? I'm in Accra, I'm in my home. Why should I go to a hotel? But there's a reason why you must go to a hotel. Because you will not do the usual house chores that actually boggles you down. You may have some free time to watch some TV, some series, some videos, you may do some swimming pool. You may have a lot of things that you ordinarily don't do. And so you have a renewed spirit, a renewed sense of life. All right. That's why sometimes I just drive my car and then jet off to Ho or jet off to Pando and etc. Because by the time you come back, at least you've seen some forests, you've participated in some things. Do you get it? So I think that, yes, as Nana is saying, because it is not part of our culture, it's not part of our orientation, people do not wake up to that reasoning that they must take a move to somewhere else to renew themselves and then come back. So that lack of knowledge is also part of the reasons why they will take annual leave and still stay home. All right, why should you take annual leave and still stay home? There's no point. And sometimes when I ask somebody, so your leisure time, what do you do? They say, I sleep. Really? Sleep? And I'm like, that's going to be a very boring life. Why should you take annual leave and just sleep?
Cultural orientation.
Kwame, what did you say?
I said cultural orientation.
Yeah. I sometimes find it very, very strange when I hear people say, my hobby is sleeping. I don't get it. Because that tells me that you're a very boring person. Because, look, there's so much out there to see and to experience. Why would you sleep? But just as you're saying, because of the cultural orientation, we're not used to. We only travel for a purpose. I mean, purpose in code, that there's a funeral, there's an outdoor. We don't actually think that there must be a travel where you just want to see what is out there. So you could actually just be traveling and watching forest, watching rivers. And we don't think that way. We think it's a waste of time, but it's not. It contributes to quality of life. And that's why these Europeans and these Americans and these Asians would put their backpack, spend so much money. just walking along our street watching. Why? Because he could observe so much, and when he goes back, he can talk about so much. In fact, 1 year, they are still talking about the things that they saw in Africa and Zimbabwe and comparing the differences, etc.
Yeah, I said, to
Yeah,
chip in there.
yeah.
Today I was having a conversation with Patricia, our class rep.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, come to Accra, come to Accra." And I said, "No, I'm somebody who likes to be very close to nature. So, like, I should see fresh foods. If I get to the markets, you meet the local farmers, you go out. Sometimes you even go to the farm yourself to take the cassava from them and the gari and those things." So I'm like, how will life be for me in Accra? So, yeah.
Yeah. And this is the kind of thing you guys be doing, because luckily you're now connected. So, and one is in Ho, one is two are in Ho, one is in Takrade, you could be crisscrossing, paying visits and things. We can even organize a trip, this tourism class. It's something that I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Whether we can organize a trip to one of these places, but we need to look at how are we going to do it. I mean, we're not many, so we can have one bus and then social distance, all right? But the point I'm making is that if we do not start orientating the people, our industry will not grow. If we do not start orientating the people, getting people to understand why you do not necessarily have to go to Kumasi for funeral, but you can just go to Kumasi just like that, all right? Because when they do that, they would actually patronize Kwame's hotel. They would actually buy a Mercedes Sobolo somewhere. They would actually participate in something, and through that, the industry can grow. Are you with me? So I think that, yes, one of the reasons is lack of awareness, of people about travel and tourism and hospitality. Or you can say that it's cultural constraint, all right? That is part of the consumer behavior, the way we do, especially towards domestic tourism, is about cultural constraint, the lack of awareness that we have about the purpose of travel and tourism. So we may have the disposable income, all right, and we may have the disposable time, but the orientation that we must use that time for these purposes is lacking, and that's where we have to build capacity. Yeah, you want to say something?
Oh no.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the next one. Remember, we're looking at the behaviorals, all right, of the tourist. Now, there is what we call the 5-phase experience model that we have to actually factor in our planning, all right? Now, the tourist who is actually coming to the hospitality sector, whether it's coming to the restaurant or the hotel or the amusement center or the whatever attraction or they're coming to, we must actually understand that there is a phased approach to the entire process, and we have to factor that in our planning, all right? And this 5-phase outdoor recreation model, must be, planned. You must actually use that to plan every stage of the tourist, activities. Now, the first one is anticipation phase. Now, before I come in to describe them, who can actually look at it and say something about them before I come in? Let me test your analytical skills. Yeah? So we have anticipation phase, travel to actual site, on-site experiences, travel back. What are involved? What are the things that are involved in these stages? Yeah? Pump up. Mercedes.
Okay, so I think with the anticipation phase,
Yeah.
Should I say the word speaks to itself?
Yeah.
It's like what you are expecting or hope to get through this particular experience that you would be going on.
Give us practical example.
Okay, so maybe I'll say that you are hoping that by the time you are done with, let's say let's use Ho.
Yeah.
By the time you are done going to Ho, maybe you would be able to appreciate nature more. So you are hoping that by the time you are done, this is what you hope to achieve.
Okay, good point.
Let me quickly add that it's a time of anticipation and excitement.
Yeah.
Because you're hoping to get somewhere. You trust that place will be very good. So you are looking forward for it. So you're excited about it.
Excellent. Excited about it. You know what we used to call, or what we call daydreaming? You know what we call daydreaming?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You remember when we were kids and when we were young, your dad tells you, oh, we are going to visit your granny this December. What happens to you?
You are very excited.
Yeah, so tell me, what do you do?
You
What
end up being...
What happens to you?
You see, you have sleepless nights.
Exactly.
You're anticipating.
You also be thinking of the places you'll be visiting.
Exactly. All right.
Things you do.
Exactly. So in the anticipation phase, that's how the tourists go. All right. They daydream. So I remember when we were young, you'll be even, especially on the night before the trip, Masa, you will just be imagining, grandma doing fufu and then having some games with some of your friends or some relatives that you've seen them so long ago, especially when you're a guy and you spot some girl before the village there, right? You can't even finish thinking about that, So there's so much going through your, in fact, you have already packed and you're thinking the kind of dress you put on, you mark this boot, you mark that boot,
Sure.
Charlie, it's not a joke. For 1 week, depending on when your dad told you, if it's about for 1 week, you will just be daydreaming about
Daydreaming, yeah.
And this is what the anticipation phase is like. The tourist is actually imagining how would the place be like. And if somebody had actually given them some story about some places, they will be imagining about that place. Like they say there's a cave that has some strange things. And he's even trying to picture how the cave looks like. All right. And how he's going to navigate the cave, the kind of pictures you're going to take. And in this current times, you're actually spotting your what do you call your selfie points. All right. Okay, I will take selfie on top of the hill and I'll take one here. Do you get it? So in your mind, you are mapping the entire trip, right from the station into the car, the kind of conversation you're going to have in the car, whether you're going to watch around, the environment, the serene environment you're going to feel, the vibe in the car, all these things, you're mapping them in your head. Do you get it? And that is the anticipation phase. Now, how would this anticipation phase help us plan? Yes, I'm listening to you. How would it help us plan? You can use one area, maybe, Kwame, for example, you can use a hotel to tell us about anticipation phase, how you're going to plan with it. Or, you can use a travel and tour, you can use, a tourism organization to help us understand this. So how are you going to plan? Yes? I'm listening. Pump up, pump up, pump up, pump up, pump up. Yes? Who is starting? We've talked about anticipation phase. We know what it is. How would you use that to plan towards your tourist or to plan for your tourist?
Please, I want to ask a question.
Okay, now go on.
So in this day and age, like listening to what you were saying about the daydreaming and all of that. I was wondering now, with a lot of advancement in technology, before we go anywhere, we pick a place to go to. We've seen pictures of the place. We've even watched videos all over about people that have been there. We read reviews, and then what the people who went there, what they did and all that. Yes.
You're right. So exactly that's what we are using the anticipation phase for.
Yeah, so I just wanted to find out, now that we have like a visual, like a virtual or a visual
virtual tourism
map, yes, of the place.
Yeah.
Could we still call that anticipation, although I want to get there?
Yeah, it's anticipation. So that anticipation phase is what actually define what we must do for the tourist to have that information. Are you with me? So in the past, it would have been daydreaming because there was no internet, all right? So you have no way of getting to know this place and how it looks like, all right? Now, there's what we call World Wide Web, where companies can actually set their site or website, so-called, their physical presence online, all right? So knowing that people will anticipate and would actually figure out how is the place like, that's why you have to actually set up a website. Do you get a concept? So that once they have that gap, they can go online and search and then say, oh, wow, the place you see looks splendid, okay? Then they're thinking, oh, let me check the arrival. Then they go. So on your website, you have what we call the site map. And the site map shows maybe the arrival, the rooms, the air conditions, the swimming pool. Do you get it? So anything that you think somebody would daydream about your place, you're putting yourself in the shoes of the tourist in order that that information can inform you how to plan the virtual part of your company and put it online. Are you following the conversation? Hello?
Yes, very well.
Okay.
So we are with you. We are with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm saying that the 5-phase experiential model says that anticipation phase means the tourist will be daydreaming about and then having questions in their minds. You have to actually replicate that, or you have to enact that phase, and then draw down all the gaps that you think can come in and use it to plan for your organization. And that's why you know that they may think about, oh, so how would a swimming pool like? So you take the swimming pool and take photos of its angles, all right? Clean blue swimming pool and its angles. Oh, how is the environment like? Is there birds, would there be trees? Then you take photos of that ambience, all right? And you put it on the website. So everything that the person will be thinking about your organization or your hospitality and tourism place, then you put those photos and those activities there. So that as they dream and they go and search, the information is there for them. Oh, how long does it take to even go to this place? Then in your description, you're saying from so and so place to this place doesn't take more than 2 hours or more than 30 minutes. All right. Alongside, or on the way, you will experience so many beautiful things. You may see monkeys, you may see trees. There's a popular tree called orange tree. Then you give a description. Are you with me? So you are actually following the footsteps of this tourist coming to your place. And then each of these questions that they ask for, they can search for it online and they will see. This is experiential. So digitally, they're experiencing your place. And that's why now you have, this huge, hospitality organization. What's the name? The one in the US. What's the name? Disney.
On Airbnb.
Disney. All right. That's why Disney now has a virtual Disney. All right. So if you haven't been to Disney before, you can go to Disney online digitally. All right. You will be able to experience Disney throughout. I can't hear. Okay. Now can you hear us? It means your internet is gone down. Hello now. Hello now. Okay. I think now can you hear us now? Hello. Okay. So I think her internet the connectivity is gone bad. All right. So the idea is that you must build a virtual part of you, all right, and your surroundings online, so that as the customer or as the tourist actually envisages or daydream about you and then have a lot of questions, those questions could be answered. That's the virtual experience, even before they come to, physically experience you, all right? So if somebody is actually looking at the crocodile in Paga and what they look like and etc., that crocodile sanctuary in Paga should be able to put these information, these pictures, etc., online so that people can digitally experience them even before they get it. That actually enhances the person's appetite. All right. Now, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So that actually enhances the tourist appetite in coming to see the place. All right. So we need to actually have that anticipation phase concept and think about all the things that the tourist would be anticipating. And then we can actually put it virtually, or we can make it virtually available for people to experience us. All right. So that's the anticipation phase. Travel to actual site. What happens? Travel to actual site. Who would describe it to us? Or what are the points involved in the traveling to actual site? Yeah? Travel to actual site. What are the activities or events involved in that? Let's map it. Yeah?
So I think that you consider certainly your mode of transportation.
Mode of transportation, one.
Sure.
Next.
The things that you require for that transportation. I mean, you're going to a site, so you should be prepared. What you wear, exactly.
Yeah. What else?
Can you consider the number of people that you may be traveling with?
Excellent. Yeah, you can add that. Yeah. Next, travel to actual site. How long? Yeah. Next, travel to actual site. Okay. So how would these things that we've mentioned help you in your planning and your strategy as a hospitality and tourism manager? We've talked about a lot of things, of transport, etc. Yeah.
So once you consider transport, you look at the effectiveness of your mode of transport, and whether that mode of transport is worthy.
So in your planning and your website, you're actually telling the customer to come to our place. It takes about, or you need two different modes of transport. You can either go by road, or you can come by air, or you can come by rail, isn't it? Then you say that traveling by road takes you so and so hours, Traveling by rail will take you 30 minutes, and travel by air can take you 50 minutes. Do you get it? So that face is alerting you what you must tell the tourist, because these are some of the things that they may be looking at. So you're actually getting people to your restaurant and you're saying, on your way to my restaurant, you may see two landmarks. All right. One is a very huge building called Atlantic City. The next is another huge, maybe edifice. When you get there, there's a turn on your right. That's where we are located. Are you with me? So these are some of the things that you're telling the consumer. Now, you know that when people are traveling from, let's say, Westerners, all right, from England or from America, they're coming to Ghana, and it's their first time. Now, in the plane, what are some of the things that, please, I can't hear you. Okay, Bless. Have you joined us now, or your internet is gone bad as well? Okay. So, yeah, the example that I was asking you, those of you who have actually, flown before, what do you think, in the travel journey, I mean the customer's journey, what do you think, if somebody is their first time coming to Ghana, what do you think are some of the things that they may find strange, especially we're talking about air travel now? What do you think they may find strange?
I think that people will be finding out, or will want to find out, whether the people are hospitable.
Yeah.
Okay, whether they really will be comfortable to live with, how they will be accepted.
Yeah.
And look at where they will want to reside.
Yeah.
Whether the environment is conducive for them to adjust.
Yeah. I'm sure those of you who have actually flown before, Ghanaians that immediately at the airport, in fact, when they say we should board, people start fighting. You get it? In the cabin, I mean, people are putting their stuff, at the the packing, the back, where we put our bags, right? You see people, saying, "Oh, my bag is supposed to be here. My bag is that kind of behavior." All right. And sometimes I find it strange, and I ask myself, so those foreigners who are actually in this plane coming to Ghana first time, what do they make of those things? All right. And then the next thing is about the clapping. The clapping, the clapping.
Yeah.
When the plane lands, Jemima, what happens?
Oh, Jesus.
That's for the pilots.
Yes, especially if there's some turbulence and all that. Hey, I just told myself I'm not going to die here. It won't happen.
Joanne, you know the old Jesus that you mentioned? Oh, you said?
Yes.
I think my last trip when I was coming, immediately the plane touched down. The woman said, "Yes, Jesus." Then he started clapping. Then everybody started. It's so strange to me. Like, sometimes I'm just hoping that, oh, don't clap. And I'll be saying to my mind, I'm trying to tell people they shouldn't clap because I find it so embarrassing. But surprisingly, when the plane takes off from here to Heathrow or to Schiphol and it lands, people don't clap. It's rather when it's coming to Ghana and then people will be clapping. And I still can't understand the concept behind it.
They are clapping for the pilots.
But why is it that they don't clap when it gets to Heathrow or Schiphol or Washington?
They have confidence that nothing will happen to them. There.
Yes, I think because of the incidents that happened in Ghana before.
No, but we rather have a
A
lot of, I mean,
safer.
we are much more, you know, you've never heard Ghana passenger plane skidding in Ghana. So on the safety side, in terms of record, our record is fantastic.
But
So
doctor, they don't believe in Ghana. Oh. They don't believe in anything made in Ghana or Ghana.
Oh, actually, I don't think it's about the plane. Oh. You know, even from, let's say, Ho to Accra, you
yeah,
see when you get to the station, people just say, oh, thank God. Akpe, you know, they say the thing. So it is like part of our
I
culture.
agree. But my
Yeah.
point is that why don't they do that when it gets to US, UK, or but then it's rather when it's coming to Ghana that they clap. Because when a flight is from from Kotoka to Heathrow, there are more Ghanaians on it. All right. But when it lands in Heathrow, people don't clap. But when it
That's a
lands in Kotoka,
environment. Too.
Doctor, I believe they think everything made outside Ghana is better. I mean,
so
that is
they
their
feel
perception.
safer on when the plane lands in Heathrow or what do you call it, Schiphol, than when it's coming to land in Ghana, right?
So we are
Yes,
home. So
you
it's
know,
come to our home.
these people, they are coming home.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so
coming home and the perceptions,
Yeah.
like sometimes, even as you are in the plane, you'll be thinking that, oh, maybe somebody is there who doesn't want you to travel. So by landing, finally you are here, they can't do anything, you know. It is about our cultural background too.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these things.
Yeah. So maybe if you're a tour company, you probably want to create that awareness that one of the rituals that most Ghanaian most flights when they get to Kotoka, you're likely to experience people clapping, and that's one of the rituals that Ghanaians especially would do, so that the tourists coming would have some inclination, of some. I remember I was sitting by one guy when I was coming down. I think Ghana. That was his first time coming to Ghana. Some young guy, and he was asking me about Ghana and how it is, and I tried to manage his expectation a little bit. I told him that Accra has a different kind of vibe. It has a vibe that may be different from his hometown. Then he said, yeah, he can appreciate it. I say, yeah. So here people don't drive orderly, like what you have in Holland. Here people drive, with some kind of tact, with some kind of, different, attitude. So he has to be mindful of that. So the point I'm making is that in the travel to actual site, you want to manage the expectation of the traveler or the tourist, all right, so that they can appreciate things like how long it's going to take them, things like modes of transport, etc. So you've got to have that travel to actual site, experience, and then manage them, in terms of what you provide, the information that you provide, on the site. Good point. Bless, you can hear us now, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, excellent. All right. So I hope you understand the concept of that we're explaining now. Okay, so what about on-site experience and activities? What are some of the things that you think tourists will be experiencing, and how do you manage it? On-site experiences and activities. Yeah?
Okay, so clearly you'll look at some of the things that are on the site, what you've seen, what are the things that you've seen, what things, points of emphasis. You'll also look at the various things that you have gone to do there. For instance, let's take it that you go to, let's take it the Paga, the crocodile pond, and some of the activities will certainly be probably sitting behind the one of the crocodile when it comes out of the water. You want to say it's an activity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's at the same time an experience you want to encounter.
Mm-hmm.
There are equally other things there, probably the nature, the way the crocodile comes out of the water when a bird is shown to the water or something.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, so the on-site experiences and activities must be, must be described. We need to have an idea, a map of what are some of the on-site experiences and activities people can participate in. So you identify them and you give a vivid account of them, on site. Now, usually what we forget is that experience is not only what we see, or experience is not only what we hear, but all the senses, all right? Now, the kind of, a feel, the kind of the weather condition, the kind of feel that people would have, the kind of smell that people would have, the kind of sight that people would see, the kind of, what do you call, a thing that people can hear. We have to describe all these, all right, on site. So if you take, for example, who can describe for me a place that they've been in terms of feel and in terms of smell? Who can describe for me? Who had been to a place, an attraction or a resort or something, and they can describe by, feeling and by smell, not sight, smell and feel. Who can describe it? Let me throw the challenge. I owe somebody 20 Ghana, right?
Yeah.
So can I give a try?
Yeah, now you are the one I owe, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, I have to do you, Momo.
So when you visit, say, a castle,
yeah,
our castles, you see that, for instance, you visit the dungeon. You enter a dungeon. How do you feel? The place is very dark. The smell of an old area or something of that nature. So the smell
fantastic.
doesn't smell good, and then
fantastic.
You feel like the place is heavy.
Exactly. So this is the kind of descriptions we should give. All right. This is the kind of description we should give. Now, in most cases, we are so limited. I don't know whether we like vocabs, right? Ghanaians, it looks like we are not expressive enough. If you take a typical Brit, all right, they can explain things to the nitty-gritty of it. In fact, if you listen to an old person, if you're having a conversation with an old person, British people, look, the kind of detail they can give you, all right, about something small, you'll be surprised. Do you get it? But we lack that sense of detail. And we are always fixated on one thing. When we can elaborate, on quite a lot of things, and that's why our industry is suffering, the tourism and hospitality area is suffering. Because we have so much, but we can't tell about them. Do you get it? Look, if you go to Scarborough, what do you call, castle, there's absolutely nothing there. In fact, the old castle is so, like, it's been broken down. Of course, it's centuries. I mean, it's so many years ago. So it's been run down. But when you go there and the kind of tools they give you to hear, those days, the things that happened in the castle, you marvel. And that's the kind of thing that I wanted my student to replicate here that we had COVID. So we couldn't actually do that. There's an hearing aid. There's a hearing aid that they give you, and you can punch in a number of activities. So let's say activity 5. When you listen to it, you will hear real fights, like, fight where people are on horses and they're fighting and they're killing, and there's a command by the commander. You hear it. And this is a war that actually took place in Scarborough Castle, some 18 something. All right. Up till now, you're able to experience that war at that dilapidated castle. So the issue is that, how do we explain our areas? How do we give detail in order that people can almost experience the real thing, even if it was 1772? Do you get it? Now, when you go to what do you call Elmina Castle or Cape Coast Castle, yes, there's a tour guide who tells you the story. It's a moving story, but I think it's still limited. We still haven't been able to explore in reality using artificial intelligence and virtual reality for people to experience it, all right? And this is the level that we should do. Now, let me show you one video of one of my students, my groups, what they did. I hope I find it, so that you can have in mind the kind of thing that I think we should be doing. All right. Okay. Let's see. By the way, before you can ask a question or you can add a contribution as I look for this tape. Yeah. Any questions or contribution?
So I want to lay emphasis on the fact that when we talk about disposable income, we should end by saying that after taxes, you see, when all the taxes have been paid for, so that that money is spent without any taxes involved.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Thank you. I'm trying to look for the video. I have to go into my channel. Okay, videos. Okay. Okay, so sharing. No, stop share screen. Okay, let me see. All right, can you see the screen now? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, let me start playing it. So let's follow the video. Can you hear the volume? Can you hear the volume?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Group, and we are here in Cape Coast. Yeah, Cape Coast Castle. We are here to explore, to discover all the hidden things about Cape Coast. Yeah, and we are here to have fun as well.
At the male dungeon of the Cape Coast Castle, in the male dungeon, we have 5 different sections of parts, and each of the section could hold between 150 and 200 human beings as seats. Can you believe this? They had a church right on top of the slave dungeon. Very difficult to believe that, but that was the reality.
I think it's last one.
Okay, so how did you feel? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So we can.
Yeah. So how did you feel? So yeah, go on.
So when you look at the arrival of those who participated in the trip, you realize that they had an anticipation in the beginning. They got to the destination and they were so excited that they had arrived and were ready to see and explore what was at stake or was at stake.
Yeah.
Then moving on, looking at they entering the various dungeons. When you look at I don't know, but if my colleagues saw the faces of those in the dungeon, you could tell some level of uneasiness, and that showed that they weren't too much excited. Again, the place looked very dark. And so it was not, or it wasn't a place, or it's not a place of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. So
then
go on.
Okay, so I'm okay.
Yeah. So the Kabokoso group, and this is my tourism students level 400. Now they enacted the slavery, and the idea that they enacted the slavery was that we were looking at how do we actually present the slavery story in a very moving, way than just the narrative by a tour guide. And we were actually telling the Ghana Tourism Authority that, look, we can actually let people have a real feel of the slavery by using artificial intelligence or virtual reality. So we did an enactment to demonstrate that. Now, in our view, the enactment is much more emotive and connects with people than just the narration that the tour guides actually do. So one of our concepts was, how do we create a room even at the castle that we could have the slaves, the voices of the slaves. And you see, these tapes are there. When you go to the US and the UK, in their museums, you're likely to find, or we can actually look for it to find the voices of the slaves at the time. If we can't even find it, how do we use modern technology to recreate those effects in order that when somebody comes to the castle, they could have a real connection, with the time? And that's the kind of concept that we've been actually, dealing with. I will show you another one, another tape. Just a minute. Yes. You can ask a question or you can say something. Okay, so this is another concept. Now, this concept is about how do you actually create or recreate Ghana, as in the old Ghana. Now, the idea is in the next 50 years, Ghana is going to be very cosmopolitan. Like most of the places are going to be very cosmopolitan or modern, all right? And our past, the way we lived, is likely to go off the radar. How do we actually preserve it? And we are thinking that we can actually create or use artificial intelligence to create the old Ghana for people to actually have a feel of what it used to be, even our children, all right, to have a feel of what it used to be. So we created this concept called Ghana Empire. Can you see the screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So I'm going to play the Ghana Empire for you to have a look.
Old Ghana Empire. Ancient place for modern people. Old Ghana Empire is situated in Safuru, a small town found in the eastern part of Ghana. This concept deals with an experience shared by a couple with their friend during a visit to Old Ghana Empire. Information regarding the heritage of Ghana is programmed in artificial intelligence, AI, which serves as a guide for potential tourists during their adventure.
Let's focus on why we are here. Okay, why not? Okay.
Old Ghana Empire has nothing to do with modern Ghana at all, but rather tend to foster the olden way of living. Both local and foreign tourists are welcome to Old Ghana Empire to have a shared experience of Ghana's heritage in the whole package. Soothsaying and fortune-telling is one of the practices that was adored in the olden days, and it's currently being practiced at Old Ghana Empire. Asedo literally translates love under the cocoa tree is where true love is brewed. An old adage, charity begins at home, is clearly evident here as the AI doing what it is programmed to do, teaching the lady tourist how to cook and as well as the male tourist farming practice. As part of the interesting experiences that Old Ghana Empire presents is a warrior fight between able-bodied men to showcase strength and roundly gain bragging rights. Traditional dances are not left out as a source of cultural involvement at Old Ghana Empire, where various kinds of dances are being witnessed. Then the AI takes the tourist through various local games such as Tumetu, Ampe, or Wari. Tag of war. Old Ghana Empire presents love, culture, fun, and a whole lot of mouth-watering experiences. So come on over to Old Ghana Empire, and the memory you will take will last for a lifetime, no matter how hard the wind blows.
Okay, so that's Old Ghana Empire concept for you. Any ideas, any comments, any questions?
Doc, I think I like that the young people were maybe used for the project, but just to have some kind of realness. I think you can engage older persons to take up certain roles in the concept.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is I mean, this was their project, so this is their IA. You know, the for the tourism student, their interim assessment is this particular project, and we've done it for 8 years now. This is the 8th edition. So every year, the tourism students don't write the traditional IA, but they do projects and they submit. So that one of the groups actually created that concept of how do we actually get experiences of how Ghana used to be. Now that almost all our villages are turning into some kind of modern structures. So when you go to our villages, you no longer see some of the mud houses. You know, majority of them are being converted to blocks. People no longer participating in the games, those games that we used to have, etc. So how do we preserve and demonstrate our way of life, you know, for future people or for our own children when they grow up? So these are some of the things that I'm talking about. So in order that you can create a connection between, you know, the narrative, you know, and the tourist, there must be some experiences, something that should sound real or should appear real, so that people can actually bond and connect well, and they would appreciate it much better. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So when you talk about the, you know, the tourist on-site experiences and activities, you know, our thinking must be that how do we create real, you know, environment? How do we create, you know, environment that would sound real or would seem real, you know, and it would actually help the tourists connect better than the kind of thing that we do, you know. So these are some of the issues. So if you take it to your own organization, you know, your own thing that you do, even Jemima, your own place, the what do you call, the harbor Ghana Port, residents, what are some of the things that, taking into consideration, I mean, what we have seen right now, what are some of the things that you can do for the on-site experience that people could feel connected?
Doc, are you talking about inside the port or at
your place of where you manage?
Okay, so inside the port.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that Akadi Port is in a developmental stage, so I'm sure if this kind of technology was around, we probably would have conserved a lot of areas within the port. We have demolished a lot of structures now, and probably if it would be very difficult to even find pictures for those structures. So
well, are you saying that the ports do not have videos of its beginning, its construction, how the early part was? No, they should have it.
Yeah, they should, but I doubt.
I think that probably you should be considering port scenery in that wherever you are creating. So this that particular destination or location is for the port. So what shows that place is for the port? So we should have port scenery.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, if there could be a boat or a ship that depicts that particular environment or that particular location is for the port. People will come and they are excited about that, the fact that this place is owned by the port or is being manned by the port. Anything that depicts the port. That's what I think.
But I still believe that you can still find videos, especially when you go to Ghana Archives. All right, you can still find videos and pictures of when the port was being built. Stages at each stage, how it looked up onto the present stage, and do a very fantastic video, just like we saw, whereby you can be playing it at the residency or even at some of the places where when people come on tour, they could be put in a room and then watch some of these things. It takes time to organize them, but these are some of the things that we have to do to create experiences that are lifetime, that could actually connect people and people can come back. So maybe before you move to your next level of authority on the ladder, maybe I'm sure you may end up becoming some CEO or something. Before you move to the next level of your ladder, you probably want to do this as your what do you call? What's the word that they used to call it? Your what's the word when you do? Sorry.
When you
do something and you leave, people refer to your legacy.
Legacy.
All right. You want to do this as your legacy, so that the next person who takes your position will know that, oh, this lady, she did this, she did that, And I think it's one of the things that people appreciate. I mean, the same way, if you look at, last time I was explaining to Mercedes, the idea that you have to find a narrative about the drinks that you make and then present it. If you can find pictures of how they used to make some of these drinks, all right, in those days. And these pictures, they are there. These images and videos, they are there. Even during the festivals, the kind of drinks that they were drinking, if you're making some of these drinks, you can go for those days, the festivals, and show, the environment around which they drink some of these drinks, So we need to be very emotive, about what we do, and make sure that we can create real experiences, real connections, even when the activities or the things that we're talking about happened, or the events we're talking about happened years ago. We still have to be able to bring them to life. I don't know whether you understand what I mean.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So we should be able to bring.
Yes, sir. I want to share some experience.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, our late grandfather was a reverend minister. So, some of us, we didn't grow up to meet him. So the children kept the things that he was using. I don't know whether it's okay, but it's like we have a room where his glass, the drinking glass that he was using, the spectacle that he has been wearing, the pen that he used during the last days, some small things, they were keeping them. So the pastor's gown, that long cassock they've been wearing and those things. Yes. So I have been thinking that is it necessary to keep these things? But anytime you enter that place, you actually feel something. I don't know.
Of course. And
that's how they'll tell you the story. You just imagine somebody sitting down and hearing all these things. So I don't know. That one is also some kind of experience.
Of course. And that is what we call, treasure. This is treasure, your family treasure. And in fact, I will be very sad if you change the place and if you do away with those things. Do you get it? Because
I'm even thinking of that because it's like some kind of
you dare not, You see, that's how and unfortunately we mix it up with Christianity. I'm sure it's one of the factors, the reasons why you're considering doing away with that.
Yeah.
You see, we misunderstand these things. All right, we misunderstand them. This is fundamental to your family structure. All right. And you can imagine that about 3-4 times cycle of you, like your great grandchildren, come and still meet this. You can understand the value of it. Do you get it? And that's why the Western world, they develop almost every time they're developing and we don't. Because as we speak, if you go to Isaac Newton's family, all right, they can show you some of the artifacts that he was having, even the tree that he was sitting under that actually, they were making some thoughts, etc. They will show you evidence, artifacts of that great person at the time.
Can you imagine even the car that he was using is still there? The children are still keeping it.
They are still keeping it, and you want to do away with it. Why?
Oh, but said those things, who would need them again? I don't know. It's just,
you see,
I don't know.
So they are there to keep the family memories and the lineage, and for people to appreciate the kind of activities that that man was involved in and how it connects to present day. Look, these are valuables that, elsewhere they would actually put the place in a condition that not even about painting the place. No, they keep it in a way that it's still presentable, but it tells the story and it connects the family. All right. So if you do away with it, you have actually done a lot of disservice to the family history. But how do you keep the place tidy? How do you keep, and sometimes some of the narratives, all right, the pen, for example, you can do a very nice script, put it in a glassy something, and the pen is in, and it tells the story of how this pen was used by the guy, the old man, etc. Everything about him there has to have that narrative that people can actually see, read, and connect to it. Yeah, this is what we're talking about: the on-site experiences and activities. The cassock, for example, fantastic thing. You can even look at that cassock and compare it with the current cassock and see the difference, how cassocks had changed over time. Do you get it? So,
yes.
I don't see why you want to do away with
and glasses, how we have.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, so actually, I wish we could do away with it, but I can't do away with it. So I'm just managing it. Yeah.
This thing, elsewhere, you can create a tourism experience for people to come and see it. All right. And actually make revenues out of it. Have you, I don't know whether you've been to South Africa before. If you go to Mandela's house, in what do you call Soweto, you marvel the kind of things that you see there and the kind of voices they play. So whenever you enter Mandela's house, he's speaking. There's a tape with speakers that actually, plays Mandela's voice and plays the shooting when people came there to shoot them and attempted on his life. All these things are playing there, and you can actually relate to that. His room set, the bed that he slept on, everything is there. And he speaks directly to who Mandela was and Winnie Mandela. Everything is preserved there. And the same thing that you can do for this, your family, fantastic family treasure. And eventually, you can even create tourist attraction. You can use it as a tourist attraction where people can come and see the olden days, cassock, caps, maybe glasses, the way it used to be, and the way they have changed over time. Are you with me?
Yeah, actually, books that he has been using, the encyclopedia and those interpreters Bible, some pastors normally come around and make some references in those books.
Right. And you make sure that they don't abuse it or they don't take it away. It's protected.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, you could even liaise with the Ghana Tourism Authority as one of the things that they can promote, because it dates back to some years, isn't it? Since when?
Yeah. So actually, I've forgotten the
year.
The time. Yeah.
So
he passed on in the 1990. Yeah.
Yeah. So from 1990 up until now, you could see a lot of differences, all right, in society and the way, the kind of things that we used and the kind of, activities that we did. And you can imagine traveling down to 2030, 2050, thereabout, how precious this would be, So we're talking about the on-site experiences, the kind of thing that we can do to replicate or to actually, enact the activities for people to be connected with. All right. Let's move to traveling back. Or if you have any questions or contribution to what we just discussed. How many of you agree with Juan that you should do away with the place or you should keep it?
She should keep it.
Yeah.
You keep it.
Yeah.
And like you are saying, it should become a tourist site, and they could make some good money from there.
Correct. So never touch it. Don't throw them away. This
is what use would that be to others if not direct family members? Okay.
No, of course, that's what I'm telling you. Society can actually see the difference in time, like the cassock, for example. It talks about the difference between how cassock used to be and now. See, I used to have pen pals. I used to write a lot. I had pen pals in Australia, in US, in UK. I remember when I came from England, I was looking for those, because I had a lot of pictures of my pals, and I was looking for a particular album that had all these pictures in it. But because I traveled, my sisters didn't take care of those things. And now I can't find them. I've been struggling to look for them, And those letters, the airmails, I don't know, those of you who are not millennials, there was these airmails that we used to write letter. Do you guys?
Sure.
Yeah. Kwame, you remember those airmails?
Yeah.
It has some red and blue.
Very, very redly.
Red and blue.
Sure, redly, but
exactly.
Just beneath the envelope.
Exactly. And then we used to have some writing pads. Some of them had some flowery things.
Yeah, the love in the middle.
Exactly.
The love sign in the middle.
Look, I've been searching for all of these things. I can't find them. And I feel so sad. Because I could actually show my son the differences between the kind of letters that you write now, which none of them had actually. I mean, the modern generation had never received physical letter before because of text messages and because of emails, right? And they have not experienced the thrill that goes through you when your loved ones say they've sent you a letter and you haven't received it. For 2 months, you haven't received it. I mean, those thrills, you remember those days you have to go to post office to open your mailbox before you see that there's a letter, and the idea that even when we're in school, high school, the letter box, the letter girls and the letter boys, right? When you have your letter, they keep it and they come and tell you that I have a letter, I have your letter. You have to pay me X amount of money before I give it to you. You know, those days, the thrills that we used to go through, a lot of present day people do not go through that thrills. And that shows changes in society, and how far we've come, So these artifacts that you have, these relics that you have, you do not dispose them. This is treasure. And you're lucky that they're all at one place that you can actually demonstrate to people. If you do away with it, I will be so sad. So don't do away with them, Joanne.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
All right. Now let's move to travel back. Remember, we are looking at the phase approach, the 5-phase experiential model of the tourist. Now, when a person is traveling back, what are the experiences? Let's discuss. What are some of the things that happens traveling back? So you've been to the place, you've seen what you have to see, you've done what you have to do, you've eaten, tasted, things, etc. Now you're traveling back. What are the things? And remember, we are mapping the tourist experience in order that we can use it to plan our own activities for them to participate in. Traveling back, what are the activities and the events involved in them?
So once you travel back, you're going to consider if you have another opportunity. So you look at the processes you've gone through getting there, and getting back, you find out whether indeed
you fulfill them.
You're going through exactly.
So when you are coming, the anticipation phase, you had expectation. Now traveling back, you have had experience, isn't it? So usually that's what we say, that satisfaction is what? Expectation minus your experiences, isn't it? That's what gives you satisfaction. All right. So if your expectation level was 10 when you were coming, and you rate your experiences as 5, all right, it's what? -5, isn't it? So it means that the person is dissatisfied. But if the person's expectation was 8 and the experiences is rated as 10, it's +2. It means that they are satisfied. All right. Now, when you're traveling back, the person have had experiences, which means they've added on to what they knew. All right. And that's what we say travel and tourism is more epistemic. All right. It's about knowing, it's about knowledge creation. So you came here with certain understanding or certain knowledge form. You're now going back with a different understanding or a different knowledge form. So in traveling back, the person has now gotten what? Experience of a sort. And in traveling back, just like we mentioned in the activity cycle, they would be acquiring certain things from the place of travel or from the destination that they want. All right. So they may buy paraphernalia, they may buy certain artifacts, they may buy certain clothes, etc. All right. And traveling back obviously also includes, some kind of, I don't know how to put it, but they would have some kind of feeling, whether it's a positive feeling or a negative feeling. If it's a positive feeling, they will be feeling sad that they are gone, isn't it? And the idea that I will come back. If it wasn't a good experience, they are in a hurry to leave, you know, and never to come back anymore. So we have to also anticipate the traveling back processes and the experiences involved in the traveling back in order that we can plan with it, all right? And usually, if you look at traveling back, even at our, sites like Kwame, I don't know whether your hotel has something to say that, oh, thank you for visiting our hotel. We hope to see you again next time. Do you have something like that?
Sure. We it's beneath the guest complaints form.
Okay, but is it visible? And do you have some visible things that remind the customer that we're happy to receive you back, or we want to have you back?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. You see?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. So you have to have that. And if you go to Kotoka, for example, exactly the point. Kotoka, for example, there's nothing that actually communicates to the tourists that we are happy to have you and we are looking forward to receive you again. There's nothing like that. You know, we always say goodbye without saying we hope to see you again. Even when we are at the till, all right, if you go to the till and you buy something, in most cases, they don't even say anything. But even when they say something, they're going to say, oh, bye-bye, oh. Really? You don't even invite the person back. All that you say is bye-bye, oh. And that's what we do, because we are not anticipating the process. We are not mapping the journey that is involved in the person's, activities and inculcating that into our own strategy. You see? So you've got to actually have that. If it's a restaurant that somebody has come to eat, all right, what are the things that as they are going back, you're using to remind them of the experiences and then also to use it to invite them? If you go to Kakum, for example, all right, and you are coming back, do you see any sign that actually tells people, what they enjoyed at Kakum and whether Kakum expects them to come back the next time? You don't see that. So you are traveling back and there's nothing that is reminding you of your activities in Kakum. But if it was a very good strategist, all right, or the place is being kept in a very good, you will see that, on the road, you will see signboards that says, thank you for visiting Kakum. We hope you participated in the rope, that hanging rope. Then the picture is there that shows people. Then they'll say, yeah, I participated in this one. The next billboard says, we hope to see you next time, and we hope you participated in the monkey sanctuary. Do you know? So as you are going back, although you are going back, the place is still in tune with you and is reminding you of the activity that you participated in and how exciting it was and how excited they are to receive you back next time. Do you get the idea, the concept?
Yeah, sir, I think it's about attitude. Seriously, the tourism industry and the hospitality industry, they have this big problem. Anytime somebody is coming, I don't know whether they've been thinking they are doing the person a favor, but they are not considering the money that they are taking or going to take. You visit a place, maybe you want to lodge there, the way the person approaches you and the way they talk, as if they don't really want you around. So I think it's a big attitude that we have to work on as Ghanaian everywhere. Even sometimes you go to shop, you want to buy something, the teller, whether she'll smile, whether she'll take the money, you'll be surprised. You start checking yourself, is something wrong with me or with her? So I think it's about attitude. People should be more committed to whatever they are doing. Actually, you have been traveling outside. What is the perception that these people have about Ghanaians? I've been hearing people say that Ghanaians are nice and those things, but I don't think it's really true. So it's a question. Do they have a good impression about us?
To be very honest with you, very few people have experienced Ghana, especially when it comes to British people. All right.
Okay.
In most cases, the Brits tend to go to Europe a lot. All right. And if they consider coming to Ghana, I think that a lot of them actually consider Gambia. Ghana is not a destination that a lot of British actually look forward to. You know, and I think to some extent, just like you've been saying, we say very little about our country, although we have had a lot of experiences with the British people. Perhaps they're very much, preoccupied with those days thinking, all right? And we ourselves are saying very little about us and who we are and what we are now, And so you don't find a lot of Brits coming to Ghana than, Gambia and, particularly South Africa and even Mozambique, all right? So the perception about Ghanaians, in the minds of British people, I think is more of indifferent. And the idea that we were once colonies of them and things. I don't think that they have a particularly, special kind of memories or perception about us. But those who have actually been here, all right, perhaps they probably will have a different kind of perception. They may think that, yes, we're nice, etc. But sometimes it's exaggeration. The British people, they have a way of hiding the true meaning of what they say. So,
So,
yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Will we consider, or can we consider souvenir?
Yeah.
Right. And this particular this one, for instance, a travel back, you come with souvenir just to bring a certain memoir to you. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah. Okay. So souvenirs and miniature stuff. All right, and that's why kente, this pieces of kente and things, you probably want to make them available at your reception, right? So that in traveling back, they take it as memories, and when you go to certain big hotels, by the time you are leaving there, you have a miniature of the hotel, all right? That reminds you of the hotel. In fact, if you take concerts, for example, big concerts, you see the ticketing is in a different kind of material, all right? The ticket. They don't just give you any ticket at all. It's maybe a very thick card with a golden touch, all right? Now, the reason why they give you that is that itself is a souvenir, all right? So you keep the ticket. So yeah, let's say you've gone for a Michael Jackson concert, all right? Now, the kind of ticketing that you get for a Michael Jackson concert is not the ordinary card and things. It's a special ticket that has maybe pictures of Michael Jackson in it with a golden touch, with the Michael Jackson's image embossed or engraved on the back. So when you have such a ticket, you don't throw it away. In fact, I used to have my Ghana and England match. Remember the Ghana and England friendly? I've forgotten the year, but I think it's between 2011, 2012, or 2013. I don't know. 2011, 2012, right?
Yeah, Doctor, 2011.
2011, the Ghana and England friendly.
Yes.
That was played at Wembley. I was there. Now, I've kept the tickets up until last semester when I went home and somebody stole my bag. So they stole my bag and they stole my passport and things, and I had it in my wallet. That Ghana England match, and the ticket is in a way that you keep it as a souvenir. So years to come, and you want to talk about when Ghana played England, and I think we played 1-1, all right? The draw. You know, the ticketing itself reminds you of that event, and you can actually connect and even relive it. So as you're saying it, the ticket gives you a physical evidence of what transpired at the time, all right? And that's why at some point in time, we should not see some of these things as just mere things. So if somebody comes to your hotel and they're leaving, they're from a very far place, or, you know, and they're leaving, what is the evidence that you're giving them for them to reconnect to the hotel? It's very, very important. You know, what is the evidence that you're giving them in order that they can reconnect? When somebody actually comes to buy, you know, something from you, and as I was saying, let's say you sell these local drinks, and the person is going back to, let's say, US, they are from Russia or they are from Japan, you know, after drinking it, how do they reconnect to that, your brand? All right. Maybe you have a sheet that actually describes the ingredients. All right. And this paper is a special, you know, not that expensive, but in a very special way. Or maybe it's a carved, you know, kind of wood that has these ingredients spelled on it, that you give it to some special customers that they can actually reconnect with your brand. These are some of the things that we have to do to create experiences, you know, tourism experience or hospitality experiences with customers. Are you with me? I hope you guys are following the conversation. Hello?
Very well.
Yeah. And
Very
then,
well
of course,
said.
the last stage is recollection of experiences, all right? And these recollection of experiences, they come in conversations with friends, with family members. It comes in conversation with social media networks, all right? So recollection of experiences, you know, immediately people will put it on Twitter. They will put it on Facebook. They will put it on Instagram, all right? Immediately, they would put it on WhatsApp. They will speak to friends and relations and families and colleagues, and they will mention you. How do you make yourself available so that when they talk about you, they can link up to you? So you create your hashtags, you create your online presence, your Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram, you're on, you know, Twitter. So when they mention your name, they can hashtag and link you and say, oh, I went to Kwame's hotel. And if the name is Kwame's hotel, you have already created your handle at Kwame Hotel. So the person is able to link to you, you know. So recollection of experiences these days, you know, has so many platforms that people recollect their experiences, you know, including the, what do you call, the selfies that they take. It's a recollection of experience. So if the people or the tourists actually take selfie at your place, at your attraction, how do you activate the brand in that selfie? So that immediately they are doing their recollection. And so, oh, I remember I went to so and so, this is the picture, and they tweet it. How do you activate your brand in that to gain some visibility and some publicity? These are some of the crucial things that we have to think about and engage in our planning and our strategy for our attractions and our, you know, destinations. Any questions? Any questions or contribution? Okay, so I think we can be wrapping up, right?
Sure.
With this 5-phase experiential models. I hope you have understood it. We're saying that the 5-phase experiential model is the steps or the phases that a tourist, you know, go through in consuming, you know, the hospitality product or the tourism product. It starts from anticipation to what? To recollection. And we have understood these activities. The idea that people would, you know, always daydream about where they're going and how they will go there, the things that they will do. Let me give you a story. I remember in my childhood days, all right, and I'm sure Jemima can relate. You know, my village, the New Takrady, every one of us growing up we knew we would travel abroad. Yeah. And John, I'm sure you know the story. You know.
No, sure.
Every
So this one, about papaya.
Exactly. We know we'll travel, and we know where we are going. All right. In fact, every Nita Krade boy, even girl, actually knows that they will travel abroad and they know where they are going. Panya. Once. All right.
Straight up.
So, yeah, straight up. Panya. So when we are growing up, look, we can actually sit at home or on the bench or whatever, and you'll be just doing this, and then you are visualizing Panya in your memory. All right. Look, you know the stories, you know the places, Valencia, this, but we haven't been there before, but we've seen pictures. So you realize that you'll be there and then you are seeing Valencia, you know, lightning systems and all that. You're already in the ship. So in your mind, a hammer, you know, and even which part of the ship that you are going to hide, we know. Because people tell us, you know, when they carry the cocoa into the ship, where they are carrying the cocoa, that's where they will go and hide and things like that. So you plan the entire journey in your head. All right. Before you realize you are in Panya, and then you are meeting paddies and then, you know, that kind of thing. So anticipation stage, you know, we've lived it. And most of us, you know. So there was a time I was giving a speech in South Africa and I was telling them that I started traveling at the age of 10. And they were thinking that it was a physical travel. In fact, it was virtual travel. All right. That's what we do in Ithaca, right? We sit and then we actually daydream. We travel abroad, you know, from Payan, Ekwaha. Then you move, you go and meet paddies in Italy, all right? Then you come back, you know, then you travel back. And we've been doing that. So,
and for the purposes of those who know Panya, Panya is Spain.
Oh, yeah. Panya is Spain.
Panya is Spain.
Yeah, that's how we call Spain, right? So yeah, this is what so the point is that if we map these stages and we come to understand how the tourists behave in each of these stages, we can use that, you know, understanding to build strategies, all right, and to build the way that we use to connect with the consumer, with the tourist consumer, and you know that would enhance our service provision and enhance our brand. So I'm sure that you have come to understand how to use the 5-phase experiential model, and you could apply them in your area of work, right? Any questions or contribution before we close? All right. I hope you have understood it.
Yes, sir. But sir, when are we going to get the slides?
Yeah, I'm going to forward it. I just got the
catching up summary.
Yeah. I just got Patricia's email address, so I'm going to forward it to you immediately. All right. The videos, have I sent to you guys or haven't sent those ones?
Not yet.
No, okay. So, Patricia, please, I'll forward them to you. I will use WeTransfer. So when it comes, you have to accept it and then download them. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. I hope the class was okay.
Sure.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you too.
When is the next lecture, please?
Tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The same time?
The same
Yes,
thing.
please.
Okay. All right. Cool. And I told my committee chair that I didn't have class tomorrow. All right. Thanks, guys. Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.